We're attracting people that want to work places, not running from something, but running to something. And and so you're getting people that are aligned with your vision, your mission, your goals, what you're trying to achieve as an organization.
From humble beginnings, Insurance Claim HQ has grown to one of the largest property casualty firms in the country. We didn't do it alone, and you shouldn't either. Every week, we're talking to claims professionals and top experts from all over, all to help you grow your business and make you stronger. Let's level up together. I'm Galen Hair. Welcome to the Level Up Claims Podcast. Hiring in this industry isn't just about filling seats. It's about trust, pressure, and getting the right people in the room when the stakes are high. One bad hire can slow growth, damage culture, or cost you real money. Today's guest, EA Clarke, helps leaders rethink hiring as a growth strategy. With decades of recruitment experience and firsthand insight from building and scaling startups, EA is the founder of Pivot and Edge, where he helps companies attract and retain talent by telling their story the right way. If you struggle to build a team that truly fits your business, this episode might help. Let's meet EA Clarke. EA, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about our conversation, but kind of before we jump into like AI, hiring, culture alignment, Pivot and Edge, I kind of wanted to talk about your background because it was kind of interesting. You've been a founder, and in fact, I think you've worked with a few different startups. So
I
talk to me
have, yeah.
about what led you into that world, because it is definitely not for the faint of heart.
Almost by accident. Although my early career was in high growth, but not necessarily in a startup. When I joined this particular company, I was employee number 145 or 150 or something, and within about 5.5 years or 6 years, we grew to over 5,000. So I did. That was my first exposure to high growth for sure. And then I ended up in a couple of other kind of more corporate-y environments before I actually had an opportunity to join an early stage startup, which was, when I joined taking on the sales role there, and we were running at about 70,000 a month, and we grew that to in excess of 10 million in annual revenue. And it was, I think it was the culture that attracted me to it, the fun, and particularly the founder. This individual was someone that, I've used this example many, many times, but John was someone that you'd be fine to jump off the cliff with and figure it all out on the way down. And you just knew darn well that between the top and the bottom of that cliff, we would have it figured out somehow. And that confidence level with him and the fun that uh, that whole experience was just a fantastic example of what early stage startup is all about. Um, when I first was considering and joining, I met him, and someone else that was working there was a friend of mine, and they wanted me to join and run the sales organization. There was 3 or 4 people in sales. They weren't doing very well at the time, and they thought that my background and experience could kind of change that. Although I had not done much sales, I was more in human resources at the time, but they figured that I had those skills that were necessary. Anyway, at the end of the day, when I was trying to decide, this founder owner invited me to a Christmas party, and so I came to the Christmas party, and he just introduced everyone that I was his new VP of sales. And I hadn't really joined, I hadn't really committed to it at all. But in his mind, that decision was already made, and he was moving forward, and I had to kind of catch up. And that's really what he was like. He was always someone that led, and you just had to figure out a way to catch up. So that was my first real early stage. Lots of fun, very successful exit. We sold the company. Then I was in another one that, although it was a 6-year ride, raised almost 14 million US dollars, and had a plan to go public. And so it was in the gaming space, so we had to get all these large game publishers online, and we did all that in preparation for public, and then 9/11 happened.
Oh
And,
man.
we were not able to take the company public. Our competitor at the time was trading at 400 times earnings. We were scheduled to go, and, we spent all our venture money trying to get to public, and we weren't able to do that. So, um, but I bought the company out of bankruptcy and, raised some more capital, and we finished all the features of the product that we needed, and then was able to sell the intellectual property to somebody else. So even out of that, I was able to figure out a way to make something work. And I do think that's really what got me to, build Pivot and Edge, because I do think the key to successful recruiting and successful hiring is all predicated on finding fit.
Well, and
I
and
don't
let's
think
get there. Let's get there. So, I wanted to cover your background because I think it's so important. So, bringing these companies, I have found at least, startup founders and owners of small businesses, they tend to hire. How do I want to say this? They tend to hire based on their personal networks, right?
Yeah.
Do you know anyone? I mean, case in point, someone reached out and said, "Hey, can you come in and join the sales team?" Right?
Mhm.
And but at some point, especially in a growth world, that doesn't work anymore, does it?
I've never seen it work,
Yeah, I
actually.
mean, A, the
And
hiring can
then
be
the challenge
bad.
is co well, and the challenge then is having to tell someone that it doesn't work, that they can't work there any longer, and they happen to be a neighbor or a neighbor's friend or a cousin or an aunt or something. I don't know how that would work, to be honest. I wouldn't want to have to make that call.
Yeah, it gets hard. But we've all been there, we've all done it, and we've all been beneficiaries of it, right? I mean, you've gotten jobs from that certainly, and so have I. Um, so take me back to the moment that Pivot and Edge first became an idea.
Uh, well, I was in the executive search business at the time, and we had customers that were asking us to help them find really hard to find people. And, our model was quite a bit different than that. It was 30% of on-target earnings, and when you do the math on that, people that needed a marketing person or an HR person or an engineer, they were not able to pay those prices to kinda find those people. And then, um, we stumbled onto a book, actually, that talked about employer branding, and when I read the book, everything about the book just aligned with my own thinking in that in these early stage company, what is the employer brand? Well, it's the founder. It's the C-suite. You're not IBM, you're not BMW, you're not Lexus. You don't have a brand. Your brand is you. And so how do you attract people beyond the people that you know? Well, you have to tell your story so that people hear it. The only reason those people join the company you talk about, the neighbor, the friend, the whatever, because they've heard the story over and over again at this party, at that, at the back, in the backyard, and all of a sudden they're going, "Geez, EA is doing some really interesting stuff. I'd like to help them." So all I did was I took that thought of how do you attract people outside of this network that you already have, and you have to do it through storytelling. So we built a company, Pivot and Edge. We built the company to be a marketing first, solving hiring problems. And I don't know anybody else that's doing it. It's kind of one of those unique things. I think eventually others will follow. Part of the challenge you face, though, is in the recruiting space to change the model to what we had. You got to break what you do.
Yeah.
We didn't have to break anything. We just had to start it new. And so, not that Pivot and Edge is Uber. But, if I sat down with you 10 years ago and I said, "You know what? You're gonna order a cab on your phone. A complete stranger's gonna drive up in a car you don't know, you don't even know the person, and it's 11:30 at night, and they're gonna take you home." You'd say to me, "You're crazy. That's never happening. I'm not getting in a car with someone I don't know." And now that model works. That ride home's half the price of a cab. Everyone's doing it. So to some level, I'm saying my model is significantly cheaper than the headhunter. The value is way more. We're attracting people that want to work places, not running from something, but running to something. And and so you're getting people that are aligned with your vision, your mission, your goals, what you're trying to achieve as an organization. And those reasons are why people come and stay. And
Yeah.
it just kind of made sense to us to build the company like that. And we've been in business now a little over 8 years.
So, I mean, that's one of the things. So, hey, I've got a couple of questions to follow up on that. What was the book you read?
Aha. It was on employer brand. I can't even remember the name of it.
Hmm. It's because employer branding I think is so important and I think people forget that, right? You've developed your brand as a company to the consumers, but what is the brand you're putting out to your employees, right? And I think and I guess that pivots to the next question, which is how does Pivot and Edge exactly help these companies align talent with mission, culture, and growth?
So you have to tell it first. So first of all, you have to get the story from the C-suite. So you sit down with the founder or the president or the co-founder and you say, why the heck did you do this? Like you kind of asked me that initially. Where did you come from? What gave you the impetus to get change, do something different and new? I talked about my experience. So every founder has a story like that. They built it for some reason. It it needed to get built because there was a gap or a problem. They faced that problem themselves and wanted to solve it. And they thought, if I solve this for me, I can solve it for a marketplace. So there's always a story. So you gotta package the story up. We do it in video form, we do it in spotlights, so we written form, and we get it in a place where people can go and find it. Then we share that story on social platforms. And through those sharing of those stories, just for example, we have a service called the Hub. So we basically take everybody in the company. So maybe you've got a small company of 10 or 15 or 20 people. Then you've got investors, say. So then you got another, how many people are on the investment board? So you get 15 or 20 people in the investment organization and peripheral. Then you got friends, you got family, you got partners, you got some customers. So the hub basically goes and introduces the whole concept of, I'd really like you to share my stories with everybody that you know. So it's basically an opt-in opportunity. If you're in agreement to that, you're going to get emails from now on with links to stories. And I simply just want you to click on the link. It takes you to a link. It takes you to a LinkedIn post and repost it, reshare it. That's all I want you to do as one simple form of what we do. So you just think that for a second, how many LinkedIn connections you have personally. So you got 20 people in your company. LinkedIn says the average connection is somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000. I've got a lot more than that. You probably have a lot more than that. But let's just use 2,000 as an example. So you got 20 people in your company. Now they have 2,000 connections. You got the investment community that's connected to you. They got 2,000 connections. You got friends, you got family, you got partners, you got potential customers. Now I've created a scenario where I'm going to share my story and continual stories about where we're going and what we're doing with literally hundreds of thousands of people. And all I've done is connected you to your network. Once I've got that and I've greased the wheels and you're learning and finding out more and more about what EA is doing, then I'm going to put job ads through it. And when
Okay.
I put job ads through it, every job ad has a link, and the link takes you to a landing page where you can read about my VP of sales and why they joined us, my VP of engineering and why they joined us. Read more about why I've built the company initially and what I think about it. So now this whole point of I want people to run to an opportunity, not run away from something. I don't care if you click swipe right to apply to a job because you're running away from something. I don't think any of our customers want you. Our customers want you because you want to run to it. I like what EA is saying. I like what his team is saying. I think there's alignment with how I think and my moral structure. This would be a really interesting place to work. So we build that entire story.
Well, that's the thing, right? We all
Mm.
want to work somewhere where we feel aligned. But I think it's more than just, I think one of the things worth discussing here is the hidden cost of bad hires. You've seen this. I'm sure you've made some bad hires. What are the costs of a bad hire?
Well, it depends what the hire is. In a sales organization, I think that would be the worst possible challenge, right? So you want a salesperson that's going to succeed. So that person needs to generate revenue for you. So if they're in an organization and they're 6 months in and they still haven't figured it out yet, and you're wondering that I need to keep them for a few more months, they don't have the traction. So now all of a sudden that person's with you a year. They haven't generated a revenue for you in a year, and now you got to start again. So you paid their salary, they haven't generated your revenue. So in the sales model, it's a huge expensive mistake. I'm
Yeah.
not suggesting that it's not expensive in other areas, but that one's so easy to kind of like you would quantify that one. We're like, that's pretty straightforward. I can tell you. Yeah. Like that guy was to generate $500,000 for you. Well, that's $500,000 you didn't get plus the person's salary. Do the math. It's terrible, right? But even marketing, you got the wrong marketing people that aren't getting the job done. How many months in before you figure that out? 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, and how much
Now,
revenue is that lost? How many campaigns have, you know, sat around? Yeah, I mean, you're right. Every single area, there is a massive pitfall that could just destroy your company. And the reason is because the
particularly
wrong
when it's a
person.
small, early startup.
Yeah, and it's just because the wrong person is in that chair, which is
Mhm.
amazing.
And
Um,
tell me how many times you said to yourself, "Why the heck does that guy even have that job?"
yeah, a few times.
Ah,
Unfortunately, a few times.
more than a few, probably.
So where we are today in today's world, AI is being used to supplement or to even take over tasks on a just absolutely breathtaking basis, right? So how do you guys, if at all, use AI as it relates to this platform and the hiring process?
So it's interesting you say that because I had a great conversation with one of my largest customers today about AI and the whole, and I'm going to take you down a little road that's not as relevant as you would have liked it to be, but then I'll go backtrack and tell you where I think AI plays in recruiting. But there's a huge emphasis every time I'm at a social meeting, people will say, well, AI, like, I don't know, maybe in the wrong business. I mean, AI bots are going to interview people and, they're going to, they won't even need recruiting people. I think people in the technical side of AI are saying, the real growth in AI is at the edge. So if you think about a robot, for example, the strength of AI through this process and to get a robot to do what it does like people, we have to do incredible amounts of calculations right at the edge, right when the robot sees something, senses something, feels something, right? So these robots are going to have unbelievable sensors all over them if they don't already have hundreds of sensors on them, right? But we have to figure out a way to actually make that calculation right at the edge really, really fast. This is not an AI in the cloud play yet. This is if we can't collect the data fast and make really good decisions about it, the edge won't survive. So this is where a lot of this is where AI is going to really play a big role. The other area where I think AI is going to play a significant role is the challenge they have at data centers. They built data centers never to handle the kind of data that these sensors are bringing into them today. So
Hmm.
those data sensors were built to do calculations without any concern of space or heat or requirements. Whereas the edge computing has always worried about that because there's not a lot of space on the chip. There's no your heat dispersion on the chip is a problem, right? So you're going to get these tech people that understand edge computing. They're going to turn to the data center and say, "You're building that all wrong. Why don't we build it like the edge, where we can do things really quickly and fast, and it's streamlining those, so it's not collecting all the data, it's collecting the key data. It's not right now. We just collect all the data in the cloud because we used to think that it was free and it would never run out. So I think AI is going to play a real big role between the edge and the cloud, and then a re-change of the whole technology of how that cloud's built. Now, so then people say, well, then you're going to have a bot that's going to do recruiting for you. Not my customers. Now, maybe some customers, but if I convinced you that the right way to attract talent is storytelling, are you going to let a bot tell your story? You are never going to let that happen. So if I want to, be like Tom Brady on the 10, and if some play from the sideline comes in that says, I want you to hand it off, I can tell you in his mind, he's going to go, I'm throwing that into the end zone. I am not losing control of this play on the 10. Forget it. And I think that's what our customers are saying. If we can attract talent, I am not going to let someone else stick handle that over the goal line. I want to be in front of that opportunity. I want to tell my story. I don't want AI to do that. Now, will there be AI components in our process and our operational process of how we recruit? I think so. And there is today. But we have a interesting tech stack. Doesn't look like a recruiting tech stack. It looks like a marketing tech stack, but we have a tech stack that does have some operational recruiting assignments in it, like applicant tracking systems and calendaring and interview note taking and those kind of things that are in our process.
Okay.
But we sit down about once a quarter and we say, what do we know today about the tech stack that's out there that wasn't out there a quarter ago or half a year ago?
Yeah, it feels really
And
fast these days.
yeah, and if someone in that group can convince that group that we can bring more value to the customer by changing that tech stack or adding something to it, we will. So if AI will bring value to my customer, we'll adapt it somehow into our process.
Well, and that's, I
But
guess,
only that.
what I'm curious about. So in your tech stack now, what kind of AI are you using, if any?
Interview note taking.
Okay.
So it takes notes, and in the hiring manager process, some of the biggest challenges we have is hiring managers don't have a lot of time. And we need them to provide information to us because the more information they provide, the better talent we can find them, because they'll say, I really like this, but I don't like this. I really like that. And if I can't get that I can't get that from them, then I can't calibrate them. So we found a way to basically record the conversation they're having with candidates. And then that recording information goes into our applicant tracking system. So we have access to that. So we can tell what they liked and what they didn't like about the customer.
That makes sense.
On our side, we've tried to take that same AI tool and use it for our own interviewing. And we found out that we haven't figured out a way to teach it well enough to do a very good job. And we've been using it now for about 9 months. And I would say that it's slowed down our internal processes significantly trying to teach it. The notes that come from them are not succinct. They don't cover off the areas where our customer wants us to cover off necessarily. And by the time we take the notes and we edit them into a format that we know are valuable to our customer, it's taking us twice as long as it would if we just did the notes ourselves. So to your point, at some point in time, that AI tool is going to be better. And that AI tool is going to take those notes and summarize it better. And we'll get smarter at figuring out how to teach it better.
Yeah.
But until then,
that's a big knowledge dearth that I think exists, right? Is so many people don't know how to work the AI. So look, as we kind of come into the end of our time, we only have a few minutes left. One of the things I wanted to talk about that I think is important is because I'm sure you've seen it happen. What happens when the person you hired is not the person that really shows up? They just are not that person you interviewed. They don't seem to have those qualities. They don't seem to have that experience. I'm sure, do you have any like real world examples of like identity swaps or ghost hires?
No.
Never? Well, that's awesome because
I like, I
it's
mean,
happening more
like
and more.
actual people not showing up for the job?
So that's my first question, and the second question is gonna be when it's the
That's
actual
never.
person and they just aren't any good. But yeah, we're seeing
Well,
more and
I
more with
mean,
AI. We're seeing ghost hires, we're seing identity swaps, we're seeing fake candidates, and, how can businesses insulate themselves from that?
so I think there's an operational process that we have and we built over 8 years that's best in class. I don't know how an AI bot could fool me into an interview and pass that on as a real person when they're not. I it's never happened in 8 years. It doesn't mean it won't. But I would, I I don't know how that would actually happen, how we would actually hire a bot.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
kinda crazy. I
the world is
that
changing, right? I mean, it's wild. You can't even believe pictures you see online anymore. Um, Now I don't even know when I see a photo with the news if it's real or not.
Well,
But
that's not how I would interview you, though.
fair.
But most of our hires are in person. Final interviews are in person. If they're remote, it's a video like this. I guess I can suggest that you're not real. Sure. I don't think you're not real. I would hope that you are. And when I interview candidates remotely, they have a backdrop like this. They talk to me. I mean, doesn't mean that that can't be created, but I don't think it's good enough today that that
Mhm.
would actually happen.
How convinced are you I'm not AI?
Um, until you brought it up, I wouldn't have thought you were, or wouldn't have even been uh part of the conversation. I mean,
Yeah, it's
I guess if you turned out to be, then I would go back to the system that pulled you and I together, and I'd tell the person that owns that system that it's flawed, and you sent me a fraud, and I don't want to be a part of that any longer. And I'd hope that other people would buy into that same thing. The minute you created a situation where you were fraudulent, I would that would be a level of trust that you broke, and I wouldn't want to be a part of that. So
absolutely.
I don't.
I think trust is very important in the hiring process, and it's unfortunate because some people do violate that trust, and but that's more of an operational issue you have to figure out on the back end of that hire, which is usually my opinion is if you find out they violated your trust during the hiring process, you either if you were the employee you go, and if you were the employer you let them go. But I don't think there's a way to fix that relationship if you find out someone was dishonest during the
I
acquisition process.
me neither. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you want to go through the whole process lying, I mean, you could start with lying on the resume. You could write a resume that's not yours. You could graduate from a university that's not one that you graduated or didn't graduate at all. I mean, you could. There's no question you could do that. I just the process of recruiting is one where it does require trust and honesty. And the minute you would find that out over time, you would find out that the person lied at one time in the process. There's no question about it. They wouldn't be able to do the things they said they could do. They would there'd be some reason you'd figure that over time and you'd deal with it. That's if I went into my line of business thinking that people were gonna lie and cheat and steal from me, I wouldn't be a business I'd want to be a part of. I think if they're out there, they're a small minority of people, and they're terrible people, and I'd hope that we'd hunt them down and find them, and but I guess some might slip through. I guess I don't know.
For sure. EA, you've been generous with your time. Before you go, though, I do have one last question for you. What does it mean to you to level up?
To break recruiting as a traditional form of how it's done, I think the model's broken. I think this need to um, select certain candidates, throw them over the fence to a customer, and hope they grab one or two of them, and they pay you fondly for it, and you keep all the rest. It's just a terrible model. So I broke it, and I think, and maybe to even use your term, I think I've created a level playing field between the employer and the candidate that says. come and join me because you're going to like where you are and it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's not a guess because I've told you the story. And so have all the executives that work for us told you that story. So as I said earlier, come and run to me because I got something you're really going to enjoy. So there's the,
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us. It's been great.
yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, yeah. You have a good day.
I'd like to thank EA Clarke for joining us on the podcast. One thing I'll agree with him on is that it's important to tell the story as your employer, your story, who you are, because otherwise you're blindly getting candidates that are looking for an income as opposed to a culture fit. While both are important, it's really important to have a team that is bought into your mission, your ethos, and your idea. Now, I do disagree with EA on a number of AI issues. I think AI is changing hiring, and I think those companies that really aren't on that are losing some serious potential leverage and traction. If you noticed, I asked him if I was AI, and he was astonished. Was I? I don't know. We get lots of solicitations for AI programs that will recreate these podcasts for us. So why don't you comment below on whatever platform you're watching and let us know if you think this platform in this episode was made using an AI Galen. And in a subsequent episode, I'll tell you the truth.